A warm welcome to you all. My name is Rohini, and today, as part of Raagmala, Picturing Sounds, we're going to be in conversation with famed sitar player Purbayan Chatterjee. This session today is part of a series being hosted by the CSMVS under the aegis of Museum on Wheels Outreach Initiative, supported by Citi India. The Museum on Wheels is currently hosting an exhibition, In Tune, the journey from sound to music. And our session with Purbayan will have us delving deeper into this fascinating subject. Purbayan Chatterjee is one of the topmost sitar maestros of the world and belongs to the Senia Maihar Gharana, founded by Baba Alauddin Khan. His gurus are his father, Pandit Parthapratim Chatterjee, Ustad Ali Akbar Khan, Pandit Ajay Chakravarti for vocal training, and Pandit Arundo Chatterjee for training in tabla. His music combines the tone and the richness of the Nikhil Banerjee style and a contemporary touch of his own urbane sensitivity. He's conceptualized the groundbreaking project Shastriya Syndicate, the first Indian classical band, and this is, of course, the contemporary touch, which has performed the world over. Today, Purbayan is one of the most sought after musicians in the country. Welcome, Purbayan. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hi, Purbayan. Welcome. Thank you so much for speaking to me today.
Hi Rohini, thank you for having me on the show, and it's a pleasure to be talking to you here.
Thank you. You know, your journey began in Kolkata, where you spent your early years and began training there as well. Let me take you back in time. Can you tell us the time when you moved to Mumbai? How was it like?
It's been a good 7 years. I moved here in 2013. It was a very interesting time. I mean, I can distinctly remember myself thinking about people who write autobiographies. I mean, I've read a few in my lifetime, and those were certainly times I would put down in a book someday. I mean, the whole trepidation, the whole fear of moving to a city like Mumbai. Of course, I'd been traveling and coming here and working here for a while, but to live here for good. There was a great sense of excitement, but there were also a lot of fears which I had to overcome. Having said that, I mean, I loved the city even for many years. I mean, I've always wanted to live here, mainly because of the work culture, the work ethic, and because of the fact that a lot of my friends are here, a lot of my colleagues, people who I would like to work with are here, but those times was certainly worth penning down someday.
You know, Purbayan, also you come from a musical family, you're a family with musical roots. So do you feel that that has, in a sense, paved the way in your achieving recognition so early on in life? Was there always this sort of pressure of, being somebody?
Well, I must say I'm very lucky that for my talim, I didn't have to go here and there. My talim started with my father, Pandit Partho Chatterjee, at home. The basics were easily accessible to me. One of the main things about learning the music is the process of debugging. A guru's role in those formative years is as much listening to you and correcting you as it is to teach new material. So I'm very lucky in that way. But having said that, every performer has to go and find their own niche. They need to learn how to tell their own story, and in as much as they have to do that, they all go through their individual struggle. They go through their internal turmoil. Every artist must go through that process in order to get somewhere, because still waters are never going to produce great art. You must have some ripples with it.
Speaking of ripples, you've had to straddle a couple of talims, as they would say. It's not just your training as a vocalist; it's also your training as an instrumentalist. What is the fundamental difference between the training for the two? If you could let us into that process a little bit.
Well, my training started with the sitar. It was an unconscious choice for me because my dad was playing it all the time, and for me, I mean, I really actually didn't have much of a choice, because when I was, I think, 4 or 5, I was given my first sitar, and I picked it up. But the vocal training started even before that, because even to play the sitar or any other instrument in Indian classical music, you must know how to sing, and you must explore your abilities as a vocalist. So later on in my talim, my dad took me to Pandit Ajay Chakravarti, who continues to be my guru. for vocal bandishes. And I looked up to him as somebody who was not only a fantastic classical musician, but was such a progressive musician generally, had a great knowledge of Western harmony, his modern Bengali songs, even, his thumris, his contemporary music was amazing. And even in those times, I'm talking about the 90s, early 90s, and so on and so forth. So the two talims of vocal music and instrumental music went hand in hand for me, and even to this day, I always try to create a bridge between the two. I don't think one exists without the other, but it is also important for a vocalist to have an idea about the nuances of instrumental music. I'll tell you why, because a lot of our vocal music came from Drupad, which is essentially an instrumental art form, which, many of the great Drupad singers, including Mia Tansen himself, were Veena players. And so the vocalists imitated that style, and gradually it kind of metamorphosed into a third style, which is vocalists singing instrumental, and to a point where it's almost seamless now.
Absolutely. How wonderful to hear that, a little bit of a history and background to that. What I also particularly enjoy with Ragmala is my opportunity to ask the movers and shakers of today, as I call you, the idea of collaborating beyond, so not just collaborating with people around you, but also the international albums, which you have to your credit. If you talk about Leher or Strings Track, they feature on the charts. What has been your experience of playing music on the global stage, and what genre of music do you enjoy playing the most?
So, I mean, I'm very flattered that you called me a mover and a shaker, but I'm told that I'm a very, very bad dancer, so I don't know how much of a shaker I am. But I like to move for sure.
Of course.
So anyways, jokes apart, but when I started off my career and I produced the album Laher, I was very resistive towards this, term fusion music. I was like, oh, I'm a classical musician. I had the whole for want of a better phrase, high-browed classical attitude, holier than thou. I'm a classical musician. And at some point in my life and my career, I began to realize that not only was that an illusion, it was actually detrimental. And in fact, when a lot of I see around me, and I see a lot of classical musicians talking about, oh, the music was in our times, and so on and so forth. Actually, what that turns into is a self-fulfilling prophecy, unfortunately. You talk about, the glory of your times, and anyways, to cut a long story short, at a certain point in my career, I realized that music was just music. And no matter how many times you repeat it, and it might sound like a cliche, but it is every time it's true. And music is made in the moment. It's just a spontaneous reaction to the emotion of a particular moment. I believe that every moment is pregnant with a lot of different kinds of emotion. It's not one kind of emotion, and you resonate with it and interpret it, add your 2 cents to it, and you give it out. And once that moment passes, the relevance of the moment passes. So whether you're playing classical, or you're playing with a jazz musician, or I've had the privilege of collaborating with some of the finest jazz musicians across the globe. I've played with some of the top ranking classical musicians of our country. uh, it's the same enjoyment for everything. I cannot say that I can distinguish one from the other, because always, in every case, I am just emotionally responding to the moment. And it may be a different response to a different emotion, but the high of it is the same everywhere across the board.
How beautiful. And thank you for that, because that is a great insight, that it's just about that moment, isn't it? A few of your
Totally.
collaborations that your fans have truly enjoyed over the years. I'll tell you a couple: Ustad Zakir Hussain, Shankar Mahadevan, and jazz legend Pat Metheny. And I think that these are a couple of collaborations that come to mind. Let me take you back to these collaborations and ask you, what have they left you enriched with? If you just talk about, these examples.
So I must mention at the outset, I mean, since you took the name of Ustad Zakir Hussain Saab, I mean, we've all grown up. I mean, he has been an enigma. He continues to be an enigma for all of us. And the other day, I was, doing this thing with the online session with Shankarji, and he said that, oh, the thing with Zakir Bhai is we all wanted to get to know him. And for me also, as a kid, Um, I think we just wanted to get to close, get to know Zakir Bhai, to get close to him. And I remember when I was in my teens, not even teens, I was probably 9 or 10 when I got, the first opportunity to meet him. I mean, just the aura of the person, just the way he interpreted music, the way he breathed it and how natural, how easy it was for him to be Zakir Hussain.
Yeah.
I mean, those are things which sort of got under my skin. Those are things which kind of become part of your system as you grow up. And you cut to the time when you're on stage with him. It's almost a surreal experience. And I remember the moments just before getting on stage. He actually took me by the hand and pulled me aside, and he said, "Hey, listen, let me tell you something. That my kurtas are a little better ironed, but I'm just a tabla player." And that was my first experience playing with him. And ever since then, I mean, I think slowly with the passage of time, he's the kind of musician who you continue to be in awe of, but slowly as you get to spend more and more time with him, now of course we get to hang out with him more often, so you become more friends. And he's the kind of person who wants you to be his friend, and
That's
on stage. And he said that in so many interviews, that only blossoms into the kind of collaboration that he desires. And I'm happy to say that now, I mean, in the recent past, whenever I've had the opportunity to, it's a lot more of that kind of relationship. There's a lot of love. We love him almost as somebody of our generation. We love him like that. He's young at heart. Now, coming to Shankarji, Shankarji is, and I've told him this on many times. I owe him my very existence, because to a large extent, because he opened up my eyes towards collaboration. He opened up my eyes when I first made String Struck, which you just spoke about a little while ago. I approached him not even expecting him to respond, and he came on board with so much spontaneity, and recorded a song called "You Dil Se Dil Mile," which we still continue to perform sometimes live when we get the opportunity. Just the way he approaches his music, just the how much he's in the moment, and how much he's able to jump in, and he expects you to do the same. So here's the thing with people like Zakir Bhai or Shankarji, or as you said, Pat Metheny, any great musician of the world, John McLaughlin. um, they will, if you make music with them, you have to be ready to hold their hand and jump off a cliff. People like Ranjit Barot, Louis Banks, these are people I've had the privilege of working with. But they'll expect you to hold their hand and jump off a cliff. And once you are ready to do that, you get over your fear, you get over any sense of hesitation. It brings you totally razor sharp focused in the moment, ready to go the full way.
how beautifully put. And I think one thing about Zakir Bhai that I must mention is that how he puts younger people at ease, because of course we're so caught up in the fact that he's Zakir Bhai or Zakir Hussain, the
Indeed.
Ustad, and he constantly tells us, all of us, hey man, I'm just a tabla player, as you said.
There
But
you go.
that sort of approachability plays a big role in the success of a musician. If you actually talk about it in terms of like corporate language, of course, it's a PR or a PR factor. There are so many talented musicians out there, I feel, who haven't got their recognition. Do you think because classical music at the outset is a bit, scary, okay, to the regular person, do you think musicians have the onus of going that extra mile and reaching out to an audience and being more friendly or approachable? How do you approach this?
I think generally as a community, we are at the crossroads. We are a little confused about our identity,
Mhm.
whether to be the yuppie, rock star, which is what everybody strives to be, or to be the very sort of almost reserved, almost like kind of for want of a,
Reclusive.
yeah, reclusive, yeah, for want of a better phrase, maybe reclusive personality. So we are kind of caught between these two worlds. And I think many of us have, unfortunately, I'm sad to say this, but many of us have forgotten to be ourselves. It's very important to be yourself, to be comfortable under your skin. And those of us who are, I mean, if you look at Zakir Bhai, for instance, he is himself. He is Zakir Hussain every moment, I mean, his charisma. And you have to understand something, that not everybody can have that kind of personal charisma. So you should not imitate his personality. that is not who you are. I may not be him, or somebody else may not be him, or Ravi Shankar ji, or Ustad Amjad Ali Khan Sahab. They all have their own personalities, and but they are who they are, and that is why people love them so much. So I mean, you spoke about PR. So the best PR is achieved when you're comfortable under your skin. I feel. I feel people are very smart. They know when somebody is being honest, and they know when somebody is being not honest or highbrowed or whatever. So I think if we start being a little less touchy about things and a little more, forthcoming and spontaneous about things, I think we would have achieved a lot. All those youngsters out there, I mean, it is great sanskar to to be respectful to elders, to touch somebody's feet, but uh, please don't do it as a matter of protocol only,
Wow.
and do not overdo it to a point where it's not cool. It's I mean, and I'm not talking about, again, being artificially cool. I'm just talking about being yourself. Do what your heart desires.
Fantastic. Never had a more direct appeal for you guys to be yourselves, and that's so nice. I also admire the fact that you've had such a wonderful relationship with the CSMVS. We remember you taking pictures of the beautifully illuminated Indo-Saracenic architecture of the
Yes,
Heritage Building. So
indeed.
obviously you're very fond of photography. Are there any other hidden talents that we should know about Purbayan?
Well, photography is certainly up on the, and especially in recent times, with this digital explosion.
Mhm.
Now, I love figuring out, just as you saw at the beginning of the Zoom call. I love my camera angles, and
Yes.
and using different IP based cameras or whatever. The other thing, I have a very strong interest in the process of filmmaking, which is allied to this,
Wonderful.
and I think it's a kind of a crazy, weird dream of mine to one day make a film.
Wow.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't know where that's going to go. But I want to do it. I have that interest. There's a great deal of interest in technology also. I love cracking, how things work, and figuring out workarounds and all that. And to that end, I have we have this band called Live and In Sync, and we're trying to play in real time across across zones or different locations of the world. And I'm glad to say that I have a few of my colleagues, people like Mahesh Raghavan on the iPad, and Aditya Srinivasan, who are techies as much as they're musicians,
Yes.
and so I love hanging out with them and figuring out new things every day.
Fantastic. I look forward to that film whenever you make it. But for right now, I'm going to ask you this. As a global ambassador for Indian classical music, do you see any kind of trend in terms of younger people, more people wanting to train, appreciate the art form, especially for the generations to come? What have you noticed?
I think there is a great degree of an sort of an upward trend in not only classical music, but generally the classical arts. I mean, if you look at yoga, if you look at Ayurveda, if you look at classical music, if you look at the ghazals, if you look at the poetry of the great mushairas, if you look at Mirza Ghalib's poetry, it's all sort of. I think we are in the middle of a cultural revolution, so to speak, and I'm proud to be part of it. And if you look at a series like Bandish Bandits on OTT, various OTT platforms, it's happening. It's all happening. And sometimes we need to look back in retrospect to figure out the magnitude of something, or to see whether something is good or bad. But I think the COVID, of course, COVID has made life very difficult for a lot of us in the arts and entertainment industry. But often the greatest art is born out of the greatest adversity. So those of you who might be thinking that, oh, this spells disaster for the arts and entertainment industry, I would ask them not to lose hope, because I think there is a great degree of there's a big, like, upswing in terms of people wanting to learn the classical arts, and young people wanting to do it. It's considered cool. I mean, I started this thing called Classic Cool, and one of the motives, I mean, it was just a name. I thought the name was pretty cool, and I just wanted to say that classical music was so cool. And I'm so glad to see that a lot of youngsters. I mean, I played at this year's Jan Fest at the St. Xavier's College, and the audience is all young people, which is amazing.
Fantastic. And I do hope that the youth is more and more engaged because of people like you who make classic cool, as you said. Thank you so much for speaking to me on Ragmala. And I hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, Purbayan.
Thank you, Rohini. I certainly did, and I'm very happy to be here on this platform and to see an effort like this. This is all part of our cultural revolution. Let's keep it going.
Thank you. Of course, for the fans of Purbayan, here we have a very spellbinding performance by him right now. So I'm going to let him introduce it.
So you're going to hear a few malhars. We are right in the thick of the monsoon season, and this is something I did a few days ago. You know, when it rains outside, you know, this is all cultural conditioning. We have heard all these stories. It's a little bit like grandmom, you know, telling us about gnomes and elves and all that. So you know, you play this malhar and it's going to rain, and now we actually get into that mind space and that ethos. So you're going to hear Miyaki Malhar, Alap Chod, and followed by, I think you're going to hear a Gat in Rag Megh, in a 10-bit rhythmic cycle, which is called Jhaptal, and then you will hear some Rag Des, which is, you know, the Rag for our country, where, you know, the Rag where, you know, you hear Vande Mataram. So enjoy the Malhars. I'll start off my recital with the Raga Miyaki Malhar, Alap Jod, and then we'll see what the mood is and move on accordingly.